Welcome back to the Two Berry Girls podcast. I'm your co host, Malika.
And I'm your co host, Tammy. Today, we're going to be discussing Hulu's new dark comedy film called Fresh. And it's directed by a female director named Mimi Cave. And it is a movie that once you watch it, you keep thinking about it for the next few days.
Yeah, like dark thoughts.
So, IMDb describes this as the horrors of modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. So, sounds pretty intriguing, and we will let you know there are some spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it, just giving you kind of a heads up. So, we watched this about a week ago, and it's definitely something that like lingers on. You kind of think back at, could this happen? And if you're on a dating app, are you actually matching with a psychopath?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I didn't watch the trailer. I just read the description on Hulu and I was like, okay, let's watch this, Tammy. I was not ready. It takes such a dark turn. I thought it would just be like the standard casual murder of women off of dating apps, like the normal stuff that
Yeah.
you hear, but I was not ready. It's full on like cannibalism.
Yeah. It takes this kind of eerie take because of course it starts off with this guy seeming like too perfect to be true, and I think that's kind of a common theme that a lot of people, if you're like dating, you're telling your friends like, oh, I matched with this guy, he seems really great, quote, on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has this like beautiful house and seems like charming and good looking and he has like a good sense of humor. It seems like he's her like perfect match in a way.
Yeah.
But you can kinda tell later on, he's just kinda been playing her the whole way. Like, he really knew how to sell her on him.
So it's funny because it's about dating apps, but she has so many struggles with finding a dude off apps so that she's
Mhm.
like, fuck this, like I'm gonna just delete all my apps and I've kind of like given up. So she actually meets him
Mm.
in a grocery store. So do you think that's like the first red flag of this whole film?
That's so interesting you say that because a lot of people have been trying to figure out, like, how do I meet someone? And I've been hearing this advice recently of, like, just, like, delete your dating apps and, like, go out into the wild and, like, meet people. And literally one of the things that someone said is, like, meeting someone at, like, Whole Foods or a grocery store. So it's funny that the opening scene is her meeting this guy, like, in the produce aisle. And it's just like, okay, so you can't meet people on dating apps or like it's kind of shoddy. And then now meeting them in the wild seems pretty sketch as well. So where do you meet people?
I guess like you just don't meet people. I think it'll go back to like, oh, like I have a friend, they're single, you're single. I think you'll have to go through a trusted network of
Mhm.
friends. And
Yeah.
even I'm sure even then there's some crazies, but what I thought was hilarious was how he packed the orders. 'Cause, like, you quickly find out that, like, she's not the first time he's done this. He's had several women that he's kidnapped and held captive and, like, slowly this is pretty gross, but, like, he, like, slowly chops off pieces of their bodies.
Yeah, this is his
Yeah.
business. He probably puts co-founder or founder in his title, like in his
He even would
damn
write, like, a
profile.
like a like a handwritten note per order.
Yeah, it gave very much like the vibes of like in 2020 seeing all the TikToks of like pack an order with me.
Yeah, pack an order with me or on YouTube, like, day in the life of, like,
Yeah,
a small business owner.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny because he's, like, playing music, and he's, like, vibing out, and he's, like, packaging, like, 10 orders, and it's exactly the same vibe of, like, "Pack orders with me," and, like, "Day in the life of a small business owner." It's so weird, and then they show the juxtaposition of, like, the women he's kidnapped, like, who are in the lower portion of his house, and
Yeah,
it's
like the
kinda weird,
basement.
like a basement.
Yeah.
But I think, like, what's interesting is talking about red flags
Mhm.
because in spoiler alert, her best friend in the movie, she's the only one who's, "Are you sure? Like, where does he work? What is he?"
Yeah.
She's the only one asking questions
She
and
was
being
like,
like,
"What's his Instagram?" And
"Yeah.
that he didn't have
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Do you think that's a red flag?
Yeah, that's a good one." So, I don't know, I'm so confused with all these things because I would say, what was it, like, towards this time last year, everyone started kind of floating around on, "If he doesn't have a social media, he's my type."
Mhm.
Right? Like, it's a red flag if he has a public Instagram, he doesn't use social media, like, he's the type of guy I wanna date.
Yeah.
And then this movie comes out and he has no Instagram,
Yeah.
and that was her best friend's first red
Yeah.
flag.
Her friend was like, "That's weird."
So what do you think? Like, do you think it's a red flag?
I mean, it's hard because like, I don't care for social media, I never wanted one,
Yeah.
but maybe it is a red flag. Like,
Mm,
he should at least have, like, I don't know, either, like, a Instagram or a LinkedIn, I guess, if
mm,
you're, like, a millennial.
yeah.
I don't think it matters that much because at the end of the day, he's a cannibal, like,
Mm.
he's a D2C cannibal brand, like, human meat brand.
Literally Fresh would be, like, the name of his actual brand
I
and would have sans serif fonts.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Or probably, like, a chunkier serif font,
Oh god.
but I think the biggest red flag was that she's only been on 2 dates with him, I
Mm,
believe, and she goes on a trip with him.
yeah,
That, I feel like, is more of a red flag
yeah.
today than, like, just not having a social media presence.
Well, it's, like, dangerous, like, you don't know this person and you're just trusting them.
Yeah, and I like that her friend was like, "Tell me when you get there,
Mhm.
send me the address of where you're going," and
Yeah.
I just think the moment that, like, a dude tries to take you on a date where there's no cell service,
Oh god.
that's, like, all of the red flags you need.
Did you see that there was I feel like 2020, 2021, 2022 for me is, like, all a blur. To me, it feels like 1 year, but there was, like, people talking about guys taking girls on hiking dates
Mhm.
as, like, the first date and then murdering them,
Yeah, I
and
saw
so then
that.
everyone's like, "Don't go on a hiking date," and it's so awkward living in the Bay Area. It's like,
I
hiking
know.
dates sound amazing.
I've
Ben
been
went
on,
yeah.
like, 2 to 3 hiking dates.
Yeah, it's like I mean, there's not that much to do in the Bay, so it's like you're gonna do something outdoors, it's gonna be something active, like,
Mhm.
it's just so much of the, like, vibe of the Bay Area, like, there's not a lot of stuff to do,
Oh.
and there's beautiful trails, and if you can
Yeah,
go on
looking
a
back,
hike to Land's End.
it's probably, like, not the smartest thing to
Yeah.
do, but it just feels so natural. I
Yeah.
think at least most of the trails around the bay, like, have decent reception.
But a lot of them are very like, they're just so big,
They're, like,
and that there
remote.
are like, you do pass people on, like, the main path,
Yeah.
but you start going off, like, little side
Mm.
routes or shortcuts, if a guy's like, "Oh, I know a shortcut, let's go through here." It's like, you're kinda like, "Oh my gosh," like, we are going straight through the woods. Like, I've always been scared that there's gonna be, like, an animal or there's gonna be a snake. Never really thought it could be the date.
Yeah, it's really scary. It's really not safe.
I know. I guess to recap I don't know if I think not having a social media is a red flag or not, but after watching this movie, I feel like it is.
Yeah.
Because I guess what you're trying to do is just like verify is the information this person telling me truthful?
Mhm.
Like, does it check out? Like, could I do like a little background check? It's like a social background check on him.
Yeah, I think that that's totally fair because like, he's married and, like, that's not even his name.
Yeah.
So it's, like, very, like, base level information. You're just kind of verifying,
Yeah.
is this guy who he
Says he is.
Yeah.
But you know what's also the crazy thing? Because like you could check out his LinkedIn, kind of like verify the basics. Like, is this actually his name? Does he work at where he says he works at? Is this what he actually like looks like? You could be like, oh, before we meet up, like let's do a video chat or whatever. And so you can kind of see are they catfishing you or not? But you could check all those things out and they could still be a psycho.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the key thing here is, like, if you're newly dating someone, every date should be in public.
Yeah.
You should never invite them to your place, and you should never go to their place to
Yeah.
be safe. And you have to kind of, like, listen to that, like, inner gut.
Yeah.
If it feels too good to be true, maybe it is.
And I don't mean psycho in like in a negative way, or actually, I guess I do mean in a negative way. I'm just saying like this person is not being upfront with you.
Yeah.
Like they're not who they say they are, or their intentions are not
I
good.
think the sad part is like if someone wants to con you
Mm,
and you're like actively searching for someone and you're kind of like tired of all of the flakes and the asshole dudes,
hmm
you're maybe a little bit more susceptible,
Yeah.
sadly, to actually getting conned.
Yeah. And I guess in this movie for the main lead, she didn't actually take the time to
Hmm.
verify he was who he was saying he was. Only her best friend was like, where does he work? What does he do? She's the only one who did like finally Google search on him when she didn't hear from her for a few days. Oh, another thing I think is like a red flag is okay, this would have been their third date. And he's like, okay, let's go out of town, like you said, is a red flag. But he wouldn't tell her where they were going.
Oh, like it's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
Well, it was funny because like he noticed that she was getting iffy about it because her friend was actually
hmm
pressing her,
Yeah.
like, find out where you're going. And then he was like, oh, I'll tell you, but they were already on the way there.
Yeah.
Or like driving already there. And she's like, oh, okay. There was moments where it was clear that he was, like, shady and creepy, but
Mhm.
she kinda, like, chose to look past him.
Mhm. Yeah.
But what I do like is that they showed that she was smarter in kinda gaming him back. I feel like a lot of horror films
Mm,
that I've watched, they just show a woman getting, like, brutally murdered and, like,
yeah.
showing them to be, like, a dumb
Or not having a lot of fight, just kind of
yeah,
being so vulnerable, like, "Oh, I'm already in this bad
just
situation, like,
getting,
I
like,
have no
picked
control."
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She definitely was using psychology against him.
Mhm.
Once she kind of figured out, like, what situation am I in and, like, this guy is like this,
Yeah.
she started using his personality type against him.
Yeah, exactly. I think when she found out that she was the only girl that he's ever slept with,
Mm.
then she realized, like, "Oh, maybe I can use that against him."
Mhm.
Because he even said himself to her that,
Mhm.
like, "You're different. Like, it really sucks that I have to sell you for pieces, but, like, I actually really liked you. Like, I think we got along fine."
I think he deviated from his, like, normal plan because he would
Mhm.
just, like, kidnap people. He would never really, like, date them, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Or maybe he did, I don't know. But I also think that the movie plays with this, like, angle. If he wasn't, like, a cannibal and didn't have all these issues and all this, like, childhood trauma, they actually had the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
They got along, and I think that, like, scared her, and so then she, like, leveraged that of, like,
Yeah.
maybe I am like you and I didn't even know, and you're, opening my mind to this, and there is a cooking scene
Mhm.
where she's, like, going on a date with him as she's still his prisoner, spoiler alert, and he's, like, cooking her other people's body parts,
Yeah.
but he's, like, cooking it in a pasta, and literally as I'm watching it, I was eating a beef rigatoni pasta. It was so
Yeah.
disgusting. I was like, "I cannot eat this." I felt queasy, and, like, I didn't have pasta for, like, weeks after watching this.
Definitely
I was like,
don't
"I'm
eat
queasy."
anything. Don't eat anything while you watch
It's
this
so
movie.
gross. One theme I wanted to really bring up is I like how the movie showed the importance of having a good friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like as we're in this like post-COVID world, I think people started talking about this even before COVID, is like the deterioration of friendships
Mhm.
and people just being flakes and not being really there for you. And we'll talk more about this on the pod, just like how friendships have changed, like
Yeah.
when you're a Zennial and a millennial. But this was nice that her friend actually cared about her.
Yeah.
It was like a true friendship, and she, like, went out looking for her friend. Um, there was a piece where she was like, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Send me a picture."
Mhm.
Like, she wouldn't just take, like, because he was texting back with the girl's phone to
Yeah.
her best friend, and instead of just being like I think people, like, very surface level try to be a good friend, like, even if someone was like, "Oh, are you okay?" They would think that that was suffice. Like,
Mhm.
they did their role, they checked up on that person, but they're not actually caring
Yeah.
because he took her phone, the girl he kidnapped, and, like, just wrote back, like, "I'm great," and her best friend noticed the style that the text came back. That's not how her best friend
Mm.
talks, and then she was like, "Send me a picture." So
Yeah.
she pressed it, and then he sent her a random picture off the internet, and here's a good pro tip here. She did a Google reverse
Yeah.
image search on it, and it came out to be a photo from some random website and a brochure. So she was like, okay, sent me a fake picture. Now I have like confirmation
Mhm.
that something is sus. And then she went out and tried to like figure it out, like
Yeah. Figure out his, like,
investigate it.
real name.
Yeah.
She went back to the bar
Hmm.
that they had one of their dates at,
Yeah.
and she was all like to the bar owner, "Can you give me his name? Because
Yeah.
I think my friend's in danger."
Hmm.
And the guy was at first hesitant, but then
Hmm.
eventually he does give her the dude's name.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like being born and raised in the Bay Area, and unfortunately, people have just always been really flaky.
Yeah.
Or just people have just always talked about how toxic people from the Bay are. Unfortunately, like everyone talks about how like fuckboy culture, but everyone has known like Bay Area guys are like very toxic. And then, but when I've been seeing the guy perspective, they're saying like women from the Bay Area are really toxic too. Like there's like a lot of games, a lot of toxicness. And I think like a lot of this is like spilled over into friendships as well.
Yeah.
Like, people are, like, notoriously flaky, and people say this about people in LA as well, so I don't know if it's, like, a coastal city issue, but it's, like, very big here and in LA is, like, people are not really friends with each other.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it also comes from, like, the rise of social media and, like,
Mhm,
social media use. All of a sudden, we went from the only way you can communicate with your friends is, like, hanging out in person or, like,
mhm,
maybe talking on the phone or texting to viewing their whole lives on the gram or in some random Facebook album. You know what I mean?
Kind of going from like being a participant in your friend's life to being a spectator.
Yeah.
And it is a different thing. So it's like when people are like watching sports or anytime you're a spectator, people, and like I think even people with celebrities, like they're being a spectator into their life. So they have a lot of opinions and comments and a lot of harsh things and a lot of they say really nasty things to like public figures because they almost like dehumanize them. Like
Yeah.
they're like, oh, you're rich and beautiful and successful. Like who cares?
What
But
could be
that's
wrong with you?
yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's a very weird like thing that happens and it's almost like everyone having like a social media or even if you have a private social media but like just having that type of like you're creating your own media essentially like you're catering your page in a certain way, you're presenting yourself in a certain way or sharing only the highlights whatever. It's almost made our friends spectators in our lives versus participants.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of breeding this jealousy and this like, I don't know, it's just people say like such weird things. Like if they see if I'm traveling somewhere, there's so many different parts of my life where I use social media so much more. And I would just notice like the more I would use it, I'd get like weird comments like, oh my God, I love your life. I wish I could have your life. Or
Yeah.
you
I've
always doing
gotten those
fun
comments.
stuff. Or, and I'm like, I like went to work and I went to a workout class and I went to dinner. Like, I don't think anything I did in the day was like
Out of the
that.
ordinary.
Yeah. But I mean, if you like you do cool Instagram stories and you put music on it, I don't know if it is a cooler editing style. I don't know. But it's just weird when you start getting those like weird comments. So I thought it was nice in the movie that they actually portrayed like positive, like millennial relationships.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. I totally agree. Overall, I feel like I really enjoyed the movie because I was not expecting
Yeah.
the whole like cannibal aspect to it. And I just like how the director and writer they both play with humor.
Yeah.
So it's kind of digestible. Like maybe that's like
No pun intended.
yeah, like the wrong word to use, but like there's thrilling aspects to it and you're definitely fucking terrified.
Yeah.
But it's funny at times where you need it to be so that you can actually watch it. So I like loved it.
Yeah.
Like I would give it a 5 out of 5.
I know.
For what it's
I
worth.
was surprised, like, the reviews were pretty mixed on it. People were like, "It wasn't that good. It's not good, but it's not bad." I'm like, "Okay, what do you want?" Like, the way that they critique everything is on, like, a whole nother
They
level.
try to be so nuanced.
I know. It's like, you're not a movie
thumbs up
critic.
or thumbs down. I would give it
I've
thumbs
seen
up.
so many shitty movies in the theaters, and if I saw this in the theaters, like, on a Friday night, I would've been so happy.
Yeah.
And I definitely think, like, this is, like, my new favorite genre of, like, dark thriller horror, like, dark comedy horror. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? And growing up, it's like I definitely loved scary movies. But looking back at those movies, they're like so funny because it's like Scream and like I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's like
Yeah.
when you're like so young, it seems so scary, but like they're really not.
Yeah. I went more the like paranormal, like scary movie route of like,
Yeah.
oh, there's like ghosts and like things just jumping out at you and you're just screaming.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
That whole jumpy thing. But I guess like what's interesting, let's talk more about dating red flags.
Okay.
Because I feel like this movie just really kind of opens up a really good angle of like modern dating.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you're dating someone, you're getting just a certain amount of data and then you're trying to analyze that data. Not trying to sound like a total Barry nerd, but I think love bombing is something that a lot of people have now finally started talking about. This isn't something I even really knew about, but it basically love bombing means when someone like just over the top, when you're first starting to get to know them, they're giving you a lot of compliments, they're spending a lot of time together, they might be showering you with gifts, they're texting and calling you all the time. Like they're just like giving you so much attention and affection.
I didn't know this was like a red flag. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm totally like guilty.
You love bomb people?
I didn't realize it was love bombing, but I like to like talk every day or like text multiple times throughout the day, but I didn't realize that's love bombing.
Well, okay, so I think, looking at how it's being described is that they're doing it with the intention of getting you to open up and be vulnerable to them and give them a lot of details about you that they then later use against you. So it's kind of like trying to emotionally manipulate someone.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, see, like you're just like you're a lover.
Yeah,
You're just a lover.
I fall
You're not
very
love bombing. Yeah. That's so
There's
funny.
no malicious intent with my multiple texts.
That's so funny. What's another red flag, do you think?
When your friends don't like them. Do you think that's a red flag, or
Ooh.
do you think, like, with having friends that are haters?
See, I think
It's
if
hard.
they're your true friends and they spend like a true friend who genuinely cares about your well-being and someone who actually knows you,
Yeah,
because I don't get these people who are like, oh, you're friends, but you see them like once every 6 months. Like that's not a
yeah.
friend. That's an
If you
acquaintance.
only text them
But
happy
if it's someone,
birthday, it's
yeah,
not a
it's not
friend.
your friend. But if it's someone who spends a lot of time with you frequently, like on a weekly basis, actually knows who you are, then yes, it's a red flag. But if your friend is like a hater, I call them secret haters, so like
Undercover.
undercover haters,
Yeah.
then you have to take that with like a grain of salt. Cause I've definitely dated people who are really nice. And I've had like undercover hater friends be like, I don't think he's the right guy for you.
Yeah.
Or like just kind of like bullshit stories. And then later it comes out that like it was completely fabricated. So
I
I don't know.
think this one's hard because it's like they first need to, like, meet the person you're dating
Yeah.
and then maybe give an opinion, but even then, I don't really like to listen to people's opinion because, like, they're not in a relationship with who I'm dating.
But I do think it is a red flag if your friends don't like him, because you could expand this to, like, your friends and family don't like them. Because
The
there's
family
been
one is
yeah,
the red flag for
because it's
me.
like your family has your best interest
Yeah,
at heart. At least, like, that's how,
hopefully.
you know, I'm basing it off of, like, you have a close-knit family who you have a functioning, positive, happy family, and you have a good relationship. Because I've definitely brought people around, and my family has been like, "We love you, but, like, are you sure?" And they've always been right,
Yeah.
always. So, I think that's a valid red flag.
What's another red flag?
I think for me personally are, like, big alcohol drinkers, like, they binge
Mm,
a lot just because, like, well, I don't think anyone should binge drink. It's very dangerous for your health, but all judgments aside, I feel like if they're not compatible with your lifestyle. So like
mhm.
I don't like to drink. I have more of a sober lifestyle. If a guy is into over consuming alcohol and seeing how someone is once they're drunk is really interesting is like what type of drunk are they? That's always going to make a big impact on your relationship and your lifestyle. Are they an angry drunk? Are they a happy drunk? Are they a sad drunk? Etc. Thing here is like, are they compatible with your lifestyle?
Yeah,
If they're not, I think that's a red flag.
I agree. What about if they make fun of you a lot?
Oh, yeah, I don't like that.
What if they're, like, just teasing and they're
But
just playful in nature?
so, I mean, there's like a fine line, right? Like, is it someone's personality to just be goofy? Like, in terms of like, how far do you think they take it for it to be a red flag of them making fun of you?
I guess, do you care if they make fun of things you like your favorite TV show or your hobbies, or do you care if they make fun of, like, how you look?
I don't like any of that. But I think it's all relative to what they say, how often do they say it, and then how they're receptive to your reaction.
Yeah,
Because, like, if
I
it
think that's
doesn't
fair.
bother you, then it's like maybe it's like a playful bit they do. But if they make fun of something that's like sensitive to you, whatever it is, like the
Yeah,
way you dress or what you watch or anything that's personal to you, and you're like, hey, I don't actually like that. And if they keep making fun of that, they
yeah.
keep crossing that boundary, then major red flag.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard because I have, like, sarcastic, dark humor, and, like, the way that I show affection is by roasting someone, so I clearly have a lot of red flags.
You're a red flag.
A walking red flag.
Hey, girls can have red flags too. Like
You
girls
just
are
as
players
much.
too.
Yeah. It's hard because, like, I don't mean it. It's
Yeah.
like, but yeah, no one's ever told me I hurt their feelings. So,
I think you're good. You're not like a mean person.
yeah, I don't take it.
You're sarcastic.
Yeah.
So I think it's like if you're being sarcastic and like you're roasting them, I don't think you're like making fun of them. It's like a love language, I would say, for you. But I think you're probably compatible with someone who like is also
Yeah.
sarcastic and understands that. But like
Like,
maybe it is a red flag for someone
yeah.
who's not sarcastic and like you're roasting them because like you're good at roasting.
Yeah,
So
like British and, like, Australian humor is
yeah, that's
so, like, dry and, like,
because American culture like is very
borderline
sensitive.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Americans, like we're very sensitive.
Yeah.
And so, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's hard.
So I have a red flag for
Okay.
you when they're jealous of you.
Yeah, that's a complete red flag. If
Yeah.
they're competing with you, like,
Yeah.
oh, that's bad. Like, they should not be jealous of you.
hmm
That's so weird.
I've seen this happen quite a few times. I think when you're living in a coastal city, there's just a lot of similar goals everyone's
Yeah.
working towards. And it's just like, especially SF, everyone kind of has a lot of similar goals. And so I've had a few different people I've dated be really jealous of whatever startup I'm working at
Mhm.
or a startup I'm working on or an idea. And it gets very competitive.
Yeah.
And it's like that this should not be competitive in your relationship.
Do you think it comes from just, like, you 2 just being ambitious naturally?
Mhm.
Or do you feel like it shouldn't bleed over into a relationship?
I think like it does stem from like both being ambitious and kind of having similar goals and like working in startups. But I feel like when it comes to the boundary of your relationship, it shouldn't bleed through. And I think it should be that you would want your partner to be successful.
Mhm.
Because like if my partner is successful, I would be proud and you enjoy that success together. It's kind of like, does someone celebrate your wins?
Mhm.
And if they don't, like, that puts you in a really weird position.
It's, like, weird. It's like they're your hater, and it's, like,
Yeah.
super toxic. Like,
Yeah.
the same goes for, like, a friendship as well. Like,
Mhm.
if your friend is jealous of you, it's just as toxic as if the person you're dating.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think, like, as women, we're not really taught to look for these red flags,
Mhm.
and no one really talks about your partner being toxic. Like, there's so much discourse about your friends and the company you keep, but people just kinda assume the person you're with is a very positive person or, like, positive for you. So, yeah, definitely, if they're jealous of you, whether it's, like, your career or whether they're jealous of, like, you spending time with your family
Mhm.
or they're jealous about something in your life that maybe they have a little bit of envy with. And then the way that they go about it is they try to shatter your confidence or be like, oh, that'll never happen or you'll never be able
Yeah,
to
that's
do
not
that. I think they're trying to plant a seed of doubt in you as like a means to control you. And I think that's super toxic. So major red flags.
yeah, I agree. What about, like, if their exes are quote unquote crazy? Like, do you hold it against them if they've dated some odd people? Or maybe would you take their kind of like impression of who they dated before you
That's
into
interesting.
account into like your
Yeah.
relationship?
I think, like, anytime a guy says, like, "Oh, my exes are crazy," it's, like, a pretty good sign or, like, kind of a heads up that he's a fuckboy.
Or like a
Yeah.
narcissist
Like,
or
it seems like
something?
every fuckboy's exes are crazy. It's
Yeah.
like, are they crazy or is it you? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I feel and I also think that it comes down to, like, a matter of respect. If you've dated someone, you spent time with them, that you're even, like it's not a situationship, like, you're acknowledging them to be
Mhm.
a relationship, and you're, like once it's ended, you're talking bad about them, it makes me think, like, when if this were to end or when this I said when, but, like, if this were to end, this person's gonna talk bad about me as well,
Yeah.
and so that's, like, a major red flag
Yeah.
because you could be like, "This person, we're just not meant to be together,"
Yeah.
or, like,
You
"It's
can
not a
be
fit." You can
respectful.
be respectful and just, you don't need to it's like, what are you trying to prove to me, trying to create this narrative that this person was the reason your relationship ended?
What if they still talk to their ex or exes?
Yeah,
Is that
so
a
I
red
used to be
flag?
really cool with this, and now looking back at it and getting, like, new data of, like because I'm the kind of person who's like to have the space to make my own decisions, and I like to
Mhm.
give other people that space, and I feel like when you're dating, it's really just a process of getting to know each other. I think if you're married, it should be like, no, but I feel like when you're dating, it's weird to have, like, such strict rules of, like, who you can communicate with and who you can't, like, I like to trust people because I want people to trust me, but unfortunately, every time I've, like, trusted a dude, like, he's always definitely taken advantage which is like a whole nother episode for like therapy. But, I've always been cool with this. And then like I've gotten information back like, oh, they were like, like it wasn't kosher. I think there's like an emotional intimacy thing, right?
Mhm.
Like, are they emotionally cheating on you with someone from their past?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's really murky,
Yeah, it is very
and
murky. My answer is very
it's
unclear.
like it's like a case by case.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Overall,
I,
though, I would say, like, it's probably weird if it was, like, their most recent
yeah,
relationship. Maybe, like, one of
that's true.
their, like, exes from a while ago, and they were,
Yeah.
like, childhood friends and whatnot, and
I think a
or
good
college
rule
friends
that's
or
a really
something.
interesting thing. When did you date and
Yeah.
how much time has been in between? Because I think sometimes, like, you do date someone, like, they're not a good romantic partner, but, like,
Yeah.
they are someone you have a good, like, I don't know, banter with, or, like, they could be a good friend. But there's so much, like, maintenance of making sure everything is, like,
Yeah. It's
on
a
the up and up.
headache.
But I think here's a thing that I think is interesting is like if they are friends with an ex, then you should be allowed to be friends with that ex too.
Mhm.
Like you should be able to meet that ex face to face. Like you should all go out to dinner
Mhm.
and you can tell if something's up if that
Mhm.
ex is weird towards you.
Yeah.
Like if they're shady towards you or if they're like passing
Don't try to show
comments or
up,
they're
yeah.
not trying to be friendly with you or like they're, they're being competitive with you.
Yeah.
It's because they're definitely still talking. But if that person is able to be friends with the guy you're dating and friends with you and is like chill, it's kind of like a vibe check. Honestly.
No,
And
I
it's like,
think
I
that's
think
really
if they
smart.
can't be like, I don't know, that should be like a joint friend.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't know. That's like just what I've learned the hard way.
The hard way. Do you think this is a red flag? They don't have many friends.
I don't think so, just because I tend to be more of like a lone wolf. I've definitely like gone from like having like 14 best friends, literally 14 best friends that I talk to every single day. We hung out all the time and like, it's like either you just get older and you grow apart or like shit happens. And I don't know, I just feel like depends on like how old you are because it's like I think the older you do get, the smaller your circle gets.
Yeah.
And I would rather have someone who's like had some friendships that like have deteriorated for XY reason. And it's more positive for me to just work on myself and find friends who are actually like in alignment with what I'm trying to do and my
Yep.
goals and like the person I am now versus keeping a bunch of stale relationships.
Mhm.
I don't know. I wouldn't hold that against them.
Same. I don't think it's a red flag for me either.
But
I definitely agree more with like quality over quantity when it comes to
Mhm.
friendships because I don't know, it feels like a lot of work right now, like post college to maintain friends.
Yeah. Do you think it's different for guys and girls though? Like, are guy friendships easier to maintain than girl friendships?
I don't know. I'm not a guy.
No, but like guys always say like there's a guy code and like, they seem to like work through their shit in a like a bit more productive
They have
manner.
like a weird like pecking order though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I feel like they have queen bees. Like I think they have like their equivalent, which is like an alpha, I guess, of their friend group.
Yeah.
But they respect that to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I don't think women respect the queen bee of their group.
Yeah.
But that's like a whole it's a whole
A
other
whole other
episode.
tangent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say someone being hot and cold is a red flag?
Like if they're playing games with you.
Yeah, like they're kind of breadcrumbing you in a way.
Yeah. I mean, are you trying to like seriously date? Then I would say yeah. But if you're like
Mhm.
casually, like I don't know. I think everyone's gone really lazy with how they date because I'm kind of bad too. Like maybe I will breadcrumb people just because I'm
Mhm.
busy. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
just toxic. I don't know.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's like the conclusion of all these red flags where you're like, wait, shit. That's so funny.
Oh,
But like, I guess
yeah.
the way they describe breadcrumbing is like they have no intention of ever meeting up or like building a real relationship, but kind of keeping that person on reserve.
I think that's weird. I feel
Yeah.
like if you're gonna like meet someone off a dating app, you should meet like right away.
Yeah.
Versus like have this like long drawn out text or phone conversation for a month and then meet up. Like
Yeah.
it's just weird. Like don't like love is blind yourself. Like, you know what I mean?
Love is blind.
Because
my
love is
God.
blurry, maybe. Like meet a person because you're not gonna know like
Yeah.
if you actually have chemistry
That's
in real
so
life.
true.
Because some people are really good at
Mhm.
like banter and like texting, but
Yeah.
they're like completely dry in person and there's no spark.
So true. When it comes to texting, I'm very dry on text because I'm just so busy and I'm like doing like 15 other things at once. And I just like don't have the time to sit there and like text someone all day.
Yeah.
So I'm more of like, let's make plans, let's hang out. So it's like, I feel like I'm the opposite. Like I'm a dry texter, but like I'm really like entertaining and fun in person. But yeah, I just like don't think it makes a lot of sense to kind of go back and forth over text.
Yeah.
And then anytime that's happened to me, just like scheduling issues or whatever, like obviously like, the Bay is so toxic and everyone's so busy and I'm toxic. But it's never how I thought it would be, like
Yeah.
meeting the person. And it's funny because like sometimes you can have chemistry with someone like over the phone or through text, and then when you meet them in person, you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's weird because
It
like,
is
you
really
know so
weird.
much about that person.
So
And you
then
think it's going to transfer over. It does not
it
transfer.
doesn't transfer over, and then you kind of find yourself like semi having the same conversation.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
It's weird.
It's weird.
And I think both people are like have a different idea of who the other person is.
Mhm.
And so it's not even that the person's not attractive or like or good looking or is like catfish you. I haven't really had that happen, but it's just like the vibe is completely off.
I feel like if you don't meet up right away, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure or like
Mhm.
the relationship up for failure because everything is just like, your idea of that person. You're
Yeah.
kind of just like building them up. Like every time that you like text them or talk to them, you're kind of just like, oh, like this person's like the best. Like
Yeah.
there's like nothing wrong with this person. And
Mhm.
then you meet them in person and you're like, wait, this is not what I pictured. But it's
Yeah.
why did you picture anything?
I think that's true. You just it's yeah, just meet people
In a
in a safe
public
space.
setting.
In a public
In a
setting.
public setting, don't go on a
Yeah.
random, like, trip with them in the woods. Don't go on a hiking date.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of goes to like my next red flag is like you just have a bad feeling, like you have a gut feeling and you can't really put your finger on it, but you just feel like something's off.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of relates also back to like the movie. Anytime where she would have had a gut feeling, like a bad gut feeling, she just chose to ignore it
Yeah.
and just continued on. Was like,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being, I'm reading too much into this." But what do you think about like just having a bad gut feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really in tune with my gut. Like, I believe my gut, so for me, it's kind of, like, hard.
You practice good gut health,
Yes. Gut health,
kombucha, probiotic.
probiotics. Yes. Very in tune with my gut. So, I think, like, definitely if you feel like something's weird, something's probably weird.
Yeah.
And that's, like, when she first woke up in, like, his weird, like, dungeon that was just
Chamber.
very
Yeah.
aesthetic. Like,
I
his
know.
whole, like,
Yeah.
interior design on point. Like,
Definitely.
very
Mid-century
nice.
of modern
It felt
vibes.
like a resort down
Yeah.
there, but like a
Resort from hell.
and she, like, wakes up and he's like, "I have you like, I captured you." And
Yeah.
she, like, laughed. She was like, she thought it was a
Believe it.
joke.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "Dude, you're
So
you're
outlandish.
captured."
He was like, "I drugged you and chained you."
Yeah, and
She was
she
like,
was like laughing.
"Uh-huh." It's like, the last thing you remember is taking a sip of alcohol and passing out. Like, not good.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the movie. I
Yeah.
think it really explores how dark dating
Mhm.
can get because it doesn't
Terrifying.
matter if you meet someone off a dating app or you meet someone in the produce aisle of a grocery store, it could take a turn for the worse.
Yeah,
I think it's like a cautionary tale with a happy
definitely.
ending, which I liked.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's missing an ass, but I want to think she still has her life.
Oh my god, yeah. I think we can just look out for red flags.
Yeah.
Red flags are very real. Definitely have a friend who knows where you're at all times.
Drop your
Share your
pin.
location,
Share-
have a backup charger, and just also like things are crazy. Like there's certain things that you just can't control, right? So hopefully the world can become a safer place for women. Overall, I thought the movie was amazing, especially for like a streaming movie. I never have very high expectations from I don't know why, any movie I'm watching or shows I'm watching on streaming. I don't know why.
Really?
I mean, maybe I have more expectations from shows, but I don't really have like high expectations of movies because I feel like they're not that long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, but I'm just going to sink an hour and a half into this. But a show, you're sinking like a
Mm-hmm.
weekend. Like that's like really serious binging. But I thought this movie was great and I definitely think you should watch it. It's a fun movie to watch like on a girl's night. I don't know if you'd want to watch this on a date. It'd be kind of scary.
Probably don't watch this on a date. I feel like you wouldn't trust the
You'd be
person.
paranoid.
Yeah.
And definitely look out for red flags. But if there's any red flags we missed that you and your friends share, definitely let us know on our social media. You can find us on Instagram at Two Bay Area Girls. You can also find us on YouTube and Pinterest, but probably Instagram is probably the easiest place to drop your dating red flags. We hope you enjoyed this episode and we hope you tune in next time.
Thanks for listening.